Okay, let's get started with the presentation. Okay, we're going to be doing an intro on Biblical Finances 101, as mentioned before. Now, money and the management of it is actually one of those things that affects everyone. Because the minute that you acquire money, you have to make a decision on what you're going to do with it. So we all have to get to the point where once it comes in, where is it going to go out? Statistically, over 40% of people say that they do not budget. Over 157 million people are in credit card debt, which is a ridiculous amount. And over 40% of people also say that their dominant source of stress is money. Now, why do we seek a financial course, or what leads us to seek a course? Because we have to figure out how to manage money and what we're going to do with it once we have it. Many people are living paycheck to paycheck, and money is actually causing a lot of stress in their lives. They don't know why, but for some reason, every single month, at the end of the month, they're like, where did all my money go? Like, what just happened? So that is just basically causing stress. And not only does it cause stress in their lives, but it causes stress in their relationships. And sometimes it just gets to the point where I don't know what to do. Like, what am I going to do? Sometimes it takes that fifth overdraft where they get to the point where, you know what? We have to figure this out. Like, what are we going to do? This is just, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it another month the way that we're doing things. So what happens, what we don't realize is that mess that we have going on, those circumstances and those situations that we find ourselves in, they are just a reflection of our cracked foundation. Now, what is a foundation? A foundation basically is the underlying base on which everything is held on top of. So if there's a crack on that foundation, if there's a problem with our foundation, then everything that's on top of it that's sustaining it is basically just going to come stumbling down. Debt, having to use credit cards over and over, not being able to make our payments on time, the lack of communication with our spouses, and so many other things that deal with money is basically a reflection of our cracked foundation. So, I love this quote. Larry Burkett, he would say, how you handle money is the clearest outward expression of your spiritual condition. So what does that mean? All those things that we just spoke about being in debt and not knowing how to get to the end of the month and not being able to have self-control from purchasing things that we don't need, purchasing things like luxuries on our credit cards, things like that. They're all basically just an expression outwardly of what's going on inside of us, what's going on basically inside of our hearts. So that is why foundation is important. Because if we take care of our foundation, which is basically a component of our financial education, and how does God want us to do things, and how God sees money, and what's important biblically when it comes to money, if we take care of that foundation, then we establish something strong, something durable, something that actually lasts, and something that impacts many areas of our lives. So what is biblical finances? Biblical finances is the application of biblical principles to how we manage money. The Bible actually has over 3,000 verses that deal with money. When I heard this myself, I was surprised. I was like, oh my God, the Bible really says all that about money? And within those verses and within those topics that the Bible discusses, those chapters and everything, basically it talks about work, taxes, giving, honesty, contentment, debt, budgeting, and so much more. There's so many topics that the Bible discusses about money. So, understanding that what we're living and what is going on, or what could be possibly going on in our homes in regards to our finances, understanding that we actually can have a solution, that there is a solution, that there's basically light at the end of the tunnel. With this understanding, we created this course at 110 Consulting, Biblical Finances 101. The course is a 5-part course. It basically goes through these 5 steps. The first class is Open Your Eyes. The second is Stop Living in the System. 3, Be Reconciled with God. 4, Be Transplanted. And 5, Recognize the Inheritance. Now, we actually realized, my husband and I, that we ourselves actually went on these 5 steps. Like, we went on this journey through these 5 steps, and we didn't even realize it before. My husband and I were basically, we did have debt. It wasn't a crazy amount of debt, but we still were in debt. We were paycheck to paycheck. We were using our credit cards to solve our problems. And every single time we used a credit card, then we would have to hustle and bustle to pay it off. Sometimes we were able to, sometimes we weren't. We couldn't save. We couldn't do things that we wanted to do with the kids. The vacations that we wanted to have, they weren't what we wanted. There was just a lot of things holding us back in regards to our finances. And we just wanted more. We wanted to be able to do investing. We wanted to be able to grow a business someday. And the way we were handling things, it was just not going to happen. So we decided that we were going to take a financial course. Taking that financial course was the most important thing and one of the best things that we could have ever done, because it actually catapulted us into a new beginning for our family. We started seeing things differently. We started realizing that we're not managing our money correctly. And the most important thing was that we were realizing that we weren't including God in our finances. We didn't even know what that meant. We didn't even know how to do that. And just starting that journey allowed us to have a better understanding of what that meant, how to do that, and how to actually apply 2 things. How to apply our financial education. So how are we being practical? How are we stewarding our money correctly? How are we making sure that we are gaining knowledge? And how are we including God so that He can actually bless everything that we're doing, so that all that knowledge and all that education and all that wisdom is being rooted in His principles and what it is that He wants for our lives. Well, after doing everything that we did and after going on that journey, we got rid of our debt. We stopped using our credit cards to solve our problems all the time. And looking back, I realized that the only way that we're able to now live with just one income, with my husband's income, was because we did this whole journey and we got some financial education and we decided to include God. And I was able to stay home, be home for the kids when they get home from school, do homework for them, be basically the one that stays at home, and start 110 Consulting and be able to do these classes and just to be a part of people's lives and be able to see how much of a difference it makes when we actually include God in everything that we do, including our finances. Because for some reason, we tend to include Him in other areas of our lives and not our finances. So it's super important. So Just running down a little bit of what is in each class. The first class, open our eyes. Am I operating in God's principles for money? The second class is, what is God's role in finances and what is mine? And then we start tracking our finances. So every course has biblical principles and also financial education. We start actually looking into our finances, digging deep. Where am I spending my money? What's going on? And how am I spending it? And we have a tracking sheet, and we actually start writing everything down line by line so that we can see where is your money going. Sometimes by charging $1 here and $2 there and $10 here and $50 there at the beginning of the month, by the time it's the new month and rent is due, we're like, what? Well, what just happened? So we go over that to actually get to the nitty-gritty and find out what's going on with my finances. The second class is stop living in the system. What are things that are socially acceptable but not effective? What are some biblical principles that I need to start applying? And here we start organizing and understanding our personal finances. Here we actually start going through the budgeting. We go through budget sheets and how to do that. Some people love using pen and paper and they just want to budget on paper, and we have that available. And some people love using the computer. They just love Excel sheets and they just love typing everything in and having everything digital. And we have both options available so that it fits into basically the way that you would love to do it. Because the point is to be willing to put in the work and then to also enjoy the process. So what's going to work best for you to make it happen and for it to actually last? And I love talking about what are some things that are socially acceptable and not effective, because we do a lot of things sometimes and we don't realize that we do them just because everyone else is doing it, or just because if you do it in everybody else's eyes, it's okay. Like, it's totally cool to go out and to have a nice, amazing, fancy dinner and just charge it on the credit card because you're going to get paid in a couple of days, or because you already got paid but you don't have enough to go out to dinner to eat. So things like that. We'll discuss things like what is socially acceptable but not effective. Because if you think about it, a lot of things, if they're not socially acceptable, we won't do them. Because then we're worried and thinking about, well, what is so-and-so going to say, or what is so-and-so going to think? So definitely something that I love discussing. Be reconciled with God is our next class. Recognize that I need God's help. What ways do I include God in my finances? And we start a budgeting plan. So by this week, we already have gotten used to writing down what's going on with our finances. We already took a look at what a budget sheet looks like, and we actually start inputting and implementing all that data on a budgeting plan and trying to fix the numbers and make them work and figure out how we can do everything so that our budgeting actually works. Our next class is be transplanted. Start changing and making decisions, start a debt reduction plan, and we start an emergency fund. Now, at this point, everyone's kind of has something different going on. For some people, they really didn't even have that much debt, so they don't need a debt reduction plan, but they have absolutely no money saved up for emergencies. And so they want to figure out what that is, what that looks like, how they can make that work within their budget, within their numbers, so that they have money for an emergency. It's actually the emergencies that throw us off. Because sometimes we're good, we're pretty good, we make money, we pay, we can go out a little bit here, go out a little bit there, but if the car breaks down, forget it. Like, it'll completely throw us off. So we just discussed the importance of an emergency plan and how we can fit that into our budgets individually. And it looks different for everyone, and that's okay. We just work on how to make it work for everyone individually. And by this time, we also start realizing, all right, this isn't working. But now that I have some tools, now that I have some education, now that I have some information, what am I gonna implement? So we are starting the process of knowing information and being transplanted from our old reality to the new reality in which God wants for us, for our purpose, for what it is that he wants us to do and be. The next class is recognize the inheritance. Understanding our blessings under God's covering, discuss personal finance strategies, and finance our financial goals. So here, now that we've included God and now that we've realized how important it is to have him in our lives, we go over the reasons why God wants us to be prosperous, why he blesses us and what he wants us to be able to accomplish. And we also just see what's missing. What we find out, we discuss, making sure that the budgeting is clear. If we hear, sometimes we have a lot of questions because people are actually starting to make plans and goals, are like, all right, what are my next 30 days going to look like? What are my next 60 days going to look like? What is my next year going to look like? So we actually get all the information that we have and create a goal that lasts so that we can actually see results. Because we can talk about it and everything can sound amazing and great, but if we don't implement it, nothing's going to change. So after we do all the classes, what will be accomplished? We'll be changing thoughts and emotions and habits about money that do not help. We understand how we can apply biblical principles to our finances daily. And we create and execute a plan for our finances that work. What do you get with this course? We have 5 sessions that are approximately 45 minutes to an hour. You get your expense tracking sheet, you get your budgeting sheet, you get your debt reduction worksheet, and as a bonus, for those entrepreneurs or for those who already have businesses, you get a bonus business budgeting sheet. Because if you're going to go through organizing your personal finances and you have a business, you should also make sure that you're organizing your business budget, especially if that's an extra avenue of income, or if that's your only avenue of income, that needs to get organized and checked in as well. Now, this course that I have right now, one-on-one, is $249.95. Now, there's people that just love working one-on-one. Some people feel that working one-on-one, they feel more effective, they feel more free, and that's what they prefer. So I do have this course one-on-one, and that's the price that I have. Now, the purpose of the webinar is actually the group course. So the group course is $79.95. For actually participating in this webinar and being part of it, the webinar deal is $59.95. For all the things that you get, for all the information, for everything that we provide, this is an amazing price. Now, I have 2 groups available right now. We are going to be starting our next session January 5th at 9 p.m. It will be Mondays. So my first group available is Mondays, just starting January 5th, and it'll be every single Monday after that for 5 consecutive Mondays. Then we're also starting January 10th. That's 5 Thursdays at 9 p.m. And that'll be as well, the next consecutive Thursdays. For those who end up having to miss it, have an emergency, if anything happens in one of the sessions, you will have the replay. So you will not miss anything. You will still get all the information. That will not be a problem. And basically, that's the end of the presentation. It's question time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. Let me hop back in live real quick, and I will see you in 1 second.